T minus 2 minutes. T minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey everyone, how's it going? I wanted to do a live stream today because it's Thursday. We do live streams every Thursday, but also today is a special Thursday because Bitcoin is hitting new all-time high. We've had this a couple, well, actually, no, I think this is technically the first time that we've seen a Bitcoin all-time high this year. If I remember correctly, somebody might be able to check me on that, but if I remember correctly, I think the last all-time highs that we saw were last year. So pretty good. Actually, I think we technically hit one yesterday, but you know what I mean. We're seeing actually a pretty impressive breakout to the upside. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. More importantly, though, we're starting to see Ethereum follow, which is, I think, really, really good news, kind of in the overall scheme of things. I think this is going to be super important for actually the possibility of an alt season or maybe even more a limited alt rotation. So really, really appreciate all you guys joining, like, subscribe, all that type of stuff. Definitely hit the like button though, so we can get pushed out to more people and have more people join in on the stream, things like that. Also, I do have a fan on in the background. If anyone wants to leave me a comment, I don't know if you can hear it. If you can, I'll turn it off, but it's also quite warm here. So not really looking to do that if I don't have to. So let me know if you can hear the fan and if it's annoying. If it is, let me know and I will I'll get rid of it. So I am streaming across both. Oh, perfect. Thanks, Sean. I'm streaming across both X and YouTube. So I will be getting comments ideally from both places. And then if I do, I will just kind of put them on screen, like Sean being so nice to let me know that he cannot hear my fan in the background, which is good. So let's start with kind of, yes, God Candles is right. That is 100% correct. And as I mentioned just recently, kind of coming from everywhere, not just Bitcoin. A lot of what we have seen this cycle, I'm just trying to get it loaded up right now. But a lot of what we have seen this cycle has been very much Bitcoin heavy. And this is the first time it seems like we might potentially be seeing it happen, kind of more than just within Bitcoin. So obviously really important news here today. We can see this is the view of what we're looking at for the crypto bubbles. So everything looking green. I don't think there's a single red candle, even no matter how small. I mean, everything's just zooming right now, which is fantastic. Most importantly, we can see Bitcoin here, 4.7%. Keep in mind, 4% on a $2 trillion asset in one day. Like, that's really impressive. I know some of you who may have been around for a very long period of time, I'd be like, 4%, meh, whatever, right? But keep in mind, Bitcoin is not what it used to be. It is a $2 trillion asset. Moving 4% in a single day is insane. Ethereum also 7%. We can see a really, really nice move off of Ethereum. Same type of thing, a much, much smaller asset than Bitcoin. So not as impressive of a move. I think we could still see more here. But I mean, all around the space, we've got Meme Core, we've got Pengu. These are kind of the big ones leading the way. Fartcoin doing well, Bonk, Whiff. Per usual, we are seeing a lot of the meme coins kind of lead the way up, but that's just how they are. They're high beta plays. For those of you not familiar with kind of the concept of beta, this is usually something in the stock market. If something goes up, or like if the market average goes up, let's say 10%, and something goes up 20% on average, again, this would equal a beta of 2, right? So that's what's really important to understand. Meme coins are essentially high beta. So if the market goes up, they're going to go up more. If the market goes down, they're going to be going down even more. So meme coins in general are kind of like playing the market on leverage, and then playing meme coins on leverage is even crazier than that. So that's kind of how that's looking here from kind of the overall alt scene. We haven't seen alts pop too much. I mean, obviously we have seen days in the past where kind of the market wide average has been about 10%. Right now, it looks like we're probably jumping between that 6 to 7% range. Again, on average, we do have some standouts here and there. Sui always been a really, really rock solid altcoin here. So I want to talk a little bit today about kind of the big news. Obviously, we're seeing a new all-time high from Bitcoin, but more importantly, I think doing this to prepare for alt season and understanding what could come next is going to be very important, and could potentially make all of us quite a bit of money. So I want to talk a little bit about what we're seeing and potentially what we could see kind of more tactically in the very short term. So like I said, smash the like button, all that type of stuff. Share it out so we can get more people watching. Also, if you have any comments, questions, anything like that, just drop it in the comment section. I am going to be kind of rambling and monologuing a little bit over the next couple of minutes, but then I'll kind of open it up for questions. And I'd also love to hear you guys' thoughts. Are you in the market? Are you super happy? Are you making tons of money? Are you sidelined because you thought things were going to go lower? I'd love to hear kind of how all of you are doing in this market. I personally am quite happy. I own a lot of the larger gainers here, so it's quite nice to see this finally happen. It is worthwhile to note, though, the month is still red. So, altcoins still have a long way to recover, other than, a few notable ones here. Altcoins do have a ways to recover. So it's not like, everything's changed and everything's all hunky dory. Things looking good on the week and things definitely looking good on the day. But, so we still got some work to do to make up over the really punishing past couple of months that we've had. So to start, we will take a look at the market overview. We can see open interest peaking up near all-time highs. I'll keep my cursor off so you can see. But that's kind of roughly what you can see right there. We're very, very close to all-time highs, as Bitcoin is, of course, breaking all-time highs. So we could see a bunch of volatility happening over the next couple of days. Again, it really, really depends kind of on what we see happening over the next couple of days. But, we can see right here, RSI heat map really heating up quite a bit. We made a video a couple days back seeing that the RSI was just below average. We are now pushing up, getting close to the strong territory. So we are definitely seeing a much stronger move kind of from altcoins kind of holistically throughout the market, which is good to see, of course, over a really rough couple of months here. So and then we can also see here the Bitcoin exchange liquidation map. We'll probably open this chart up specifically because they leave out the 30-day. But unsurprisingly, you can see a massive wall of liquidations to the downside just because everybody's bullish. Bitcoin's breaking new all-time highs. And same thing here, even more, about $13 billion if we were to come back down to 98,000. Who knows when, where, how, but usually when we see especially confluence between all three, we'll have to see, right? So we'll check that here in a second on the 30-day. We'll go over the fear and greed index first. You can see here 72 getting closer to extreme greed. Generally, if we look at the past kind of and actually let's just go take a look at the fear and greed. Oops, wrong button. Fear and greed index. Okay. So if we look at this kind of individual chart itself, you can see every time we've kind of peaked up into extreme greed, probably would have been a decent time to sell. This is when Trump coin went nuts. We saw we were peaking in extreme greed. This is when kind of all the meme coins and all the altcoins were having a little bit of their rotation. Would have been a decent time to maybe pull out. And then, of course, here back in that March time frame. So, we're not there yet. we're getting closer. We'll have to see kind of how it ends up looking. But at least for right now, things are kind of moving a little bit further to the upside, a little bit quicker than what might be ideal. But that's generally how it happens. It all kind of happens at once, and then we get a little bit of some consolidation and kind of slowing down of stuff. Let's go take a look at the liquidation map, and we can show what is going on here for Bitcoin. Again, this is kind of the important piece. So we can see here about $5.2 billion on the 1 day. As we were seeing earlier, about 12-ish, $13 billion on the 7 day. And then if we look at the 30 day, we are going to see probably something somewhat similar if it will figure itself out. It has data. It's just lying to me. Well, maybe it's not. Oh, here we go. Okay. And then we can see here to the downside about $20 billion on the 30 day as well. So definitely a strong pull going to be coming to the downside, just because of what we've seen from the move of Bitcoin. So that's kind of what we're seeing here. I do think if we start to see Bitcoin kind of stutter out a little bit, this is, of course, going to negatively affect altcoins. It's not the end of the world, but this is kind of a much better situation and a much better market for altcoins. And again, we're going to continue kind of running through why this could be one of the best times to be looking at altcoins and give you some of the contrarian aspects of what we could be seeing coming in here to the near future. So moving along here, we can see the altcoin season index, again, still sitting in Bitcoin season. I don't think it's updated for the day. I would be shocked if this did not come at least out of Bitcoin season up into this little mid area now that we've seen some of this move. But I mean, Bitcoin is kind of rising at least as a market cap more than the rest of the market. So this may continue to stay in Bitcoin season, at least for a little while. And then if we go back here, we got our chart from XLM up. We'll open up Bitcoin. We can see a really, really strong candle. Couple of different things. RSI is, of course, overbought. We are also extending outside of the Bollinger Bands. So I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade, but there is the possibility that we see maybe a little bit of a slowing down or maybe even a little bit of a consolidation before we continue to move up. And this is not, this is not unusual, right? I mean, we saw here a little bit of a breakout. And then we saw some consolidation, another breakout consolidation. So this is generally a thing that can happen with Bitcoin. So, potentially we run up to, maybe we hit back to the highs of 117, 118,000. Maybe we consolidate a little bit and continue to run up. The really important piece here is that we are seeing something similar and we're actually being outpaced by Ethereum. This is super important because at least in the past, we've seen limited jumps from Ethereum, but we haven't actually seen Ethereum move like Bitcoin has. And it's usually been trailing and lagging Bitcoin. This time, at least in this limited period of time, it is leading Bitcoin, which does give us potentially a better idea that Altseason might be closer than what we have been seeing before. So you can see here over the past period of time, if we do this, I might actually even be able to compare this to Bitcoin. Let me see, BTC, USD. Not really too useful, unfortunately. I can go to TradingView and we can take a closer look. But I'm actually going to go to TradingView and just take a look at Bitcoin dominance as well, because Bitcoin dominance is really what's going to be the important thing to take a look at. Bear with me for 1 second as I load it up. I probably should have had it loaded before, but that's all right. Alrighty, so we can see here on Bitcoin dominance, we're actually approaching a key point, and you will see in 1 second why this is a key point. Boom, here we are. So I've talked about this a couple times before in some of my pre-recorded videos, but I wanted to chat with you guys kind of a little bit more live about why this is so important. You can see here, obviously, this trend line is something that has been relatively unbroken for close to 2 years at this point in time, right? A little bit over 2 years, actually. We can see there's a very limited time frame where we broke below it. This was kind of that November, December time frame, but then we actually stayed on a steeper trajectory to get back up above this kind of more like macro trajectory. We broke it again below it for a couple of days in May. We can see here right now, we're getting very, very close to potentially breaking this trend line. Now, of course, if these two prior events don't already indicate this to you, if we break this, it's not like, oh my gosh, alt season is on, right? But what it does mean is there is the possibility of at least, like, especially at this point in time, there was a fairly substantial kind of limited alt rotation. This is when AI coins went absolutely nuts. So if we see something similar to this, we may not see this blow off top insane alt season that everybody's ever dreamed of, where everybody's just making money hand over fist everywhere. But we might see something that's a little bit more limited, where we do actually see a pretty strong opportunity to do that similar type of thing with altcoins, or a specific sector, or maybe sectors of altcoins. Now, if we go back and we look at something like back here in March, we can see there was a little bit in January, and then there was kind of this period in March. This is when meme coins went crazy. And this is kind of when the whole Solana system as a whole blew up. We really didn't even get a blip in the Bitcoin dominance. So the fact that if we start to see some of this start to kind of climb down a little bit, this could be some really good news for us. And as I mentioned in my video the other day where we discussed this, the fact that we're this much higher than where we were, let's say back at this point where we were coming down to 54%, means we have this much further to go in a potential alt season. So if we go back out and let's just say we look at the weekly candles, let me reformat this a little bit. You can see what happened in 2021. I mean, it was a drawdown essentially from 73%, which is higher than where we are now, all the way down to sub 40%, where we hit 39.5%. So if we would have, let's say in November, when we had kind of that first drawdown, we could see here pulling down a little bit, and then we would have gone from about 60% down to maybe like 40%, or maybe even, let's say it was limited and we got down to like the 50% range. Well, now we're essentially at 5% higher on Bitcoin dominance, which means we have that much further to fall potentially and have that much better of an alt season, right? So I think it's really, really important to understand this and understand just how important it is that even though it may have been nice to have it here, the fact that we made it this much further and the fact that Bitcoin dominance has rose this much higher means that there is that potential that the alt season could be even better. So just want to kind of show that to you and essentially how you can kind of think about this in a larger scale about getting prepared for alt season. Now, one of the major things we're going to see is we need to be tracking Ethereum. We need to be seeing how Ethereum performs, because generally in the past, Ethereum has been kind of the precursor. I think even you could make the claim that tracking Solana as well and seeing how Solana performs will be a pretty interesting thing to follow as well. We can see, if we look kind of in a more like smaller limited time scale, we did break above this pretty key level of resistance at the 2,800 range. We're well above it now, pushing into 3,000. So that is, of course, really, really good to see. Things are looking fantastic there. If we continue along with Ethereum, probably the next major point is going to be at this 3,400 range. Of course, you can see there's limited levels of support and resistance between now and then. Probably the next largest one being kind of at like this 3,000 mark, which again, psychological level makes a lot of sense. But if we can break past this like 3,000 level, then you can see here we're looking about the 3,400 range. And then we get back to the good old 4,000 mark. And the 4,000 mark is, of course, something that we've been, I'm going to call it 2.5 times. We didn't quite get there back here in May of 2024, but we did get close. So I'm going to call it that we've been to the 4,000 mark 2.5 times. We've been rejected, all of them. And so now, hopefully we can see, again, if we get back there, a breakthrough at this level. If we do get a breakthrough at this level, really, really good news. The next thing, even more important, and this is something, again, getting into more of the actionable advice. This is how you prepare for alt season. Again, in my opinion, I'm not an oracle. I can be wrong, all this type of stuff. But at least in my opinion, this is how I would be personally watching like a hawk. And I will be watching like a hawk to prepare for alt season. Of course, if you want me to keep up on this for you and you can keep up with the updates, like, subscribe, do all that type of good stuff. Also, please feel free to hit the like button below, get it out to more people. We can get more people watching. I can answer questions. I'll be getting to questions here in a second. Just trying to get through kind of the best ways to get prepared for alt season and kind of know if we could see something potentially nuts happening. Now, of course, when is the best time to get in position on alts that you have high conviction in? Of course, here. I mean, this is pretty obvious. Buy low, sell high. Pretty simple in investing. Now, of course, easier said than done, right? We are coming into a point where we are going to have some resistance. And so now we're at a point right now where we'll have to see kind of what happens over the next weeks, days, months, whatever, and then we can get more prepared at that point in time. So right now, I would say it's usually never a good idea to be buying green candles Of course, I could be wrong. If you don't buy here and it goes up to here and then comes back to here, it would have been better to buy here. But usually when you're buying green candles, it can be a little bit of a perilous type of situation. But anyway, what are we looking at here coming back to Altseason and how to prepare, all that type of good stuff? You can see here, this is the total to market cap. This is the total crypto market cap, excluding Bitcoin. So this is everything else in the world that is not named Bitcoin. If you can see, there's a couple really important things here that I've noted. We've got this level, we've got this level, and we've got this level. This level I'm calling, and actually let me just like put in some, well, actually I don't want to take the time on stream to do it, but basically we could see anything below this level, sad. Actually, very sad. Sad, medium, okay, happy, very happy up in this range. This is kind of the simple way to think about it. So anything below here, really, really bad. This is probably going to signal an end to any hopes that we had at an alt season. Anything below here, this is kind of where we were seeing like, kind of the height of the tariff stress and all this happening. This is like kind of, moderately sad. Alts look kind of rough. We'll have to see how it goes type of situation, right? Here is kind of moderate. Really nothing special is happening in this range. You can see we kind of came into it a little bit and kind of bounced around. When was this even? This was back in the middle of November. And then we obviously broke pretty quickly through it into this upper range. We'll get to there in a second. But there's just not really a lot happening in here. We've kind of been bouncing around since like the beginning of May. And realistically, we've kind of been in this range the majority of the time since early February. We've been bouncing around. What can we see? We are getting very close. And actually, it looks momentarily like we might have been rejected at this super key level of resistance. We've seen it happen so many times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5 times, potentially a 9th time here if we do get rejected again. So this is going to be an unbelievably important point. If we can break above this, of course, we get into the bottom purple zone. This is going to be a high liquidity zone, as we've seen in the past. We'll get in here. Things will bounce around. In my opinion, if you are into leverage trading, probably not a great place to be doing high leverage trading, just because it's just a liquidity zone, right? I mean, you could see wicks are happening all over the place in here. This is a generally good zone of both support and resistance, but it's not a clear, bright line, kind of like what we've seen maybe here, or maybe even down at this level, right? This is more of a zone, so it's more of a fluid type of situation. Now, if we go into here, this is kind of like the medium happy zone, right? This is the zone where things are looking good. We're pushing against all-time highs in the total to market cap. But of course, we have not broken all-time highs. And this is something, if you've been following and sticking around with the channel for a while, we talked about this very, very frequently in November to December. If we always said, if we expect to see anything major happening from altcoins, we have to break through this level. If we do not break through this level, I'm not impressed. And then I also said, if we break through this level, it's a problem, right? Well, it's a problem. We have actually broken through this level, and even still to this day, not reclaimed into this zone. So if we are able to reclaim this liquidity zone, which of course you can see it's provided a very, very strong level of both support and resistance. So it is going to be hard to break. But if we can break through it, then this is something where, again, we're going to be kind of in this upper good zone, which is still good, but it's not great. This is all essentially a primer for trying to take a shot at the big one. And the big one is this right up here. You can see got wicked out by it a couple times over here, and then we never really got back. This was kind of the peak euphoria for that little alt rotation that we had. Coming back up in here, the hope is that we can get back to it. Why is this level so important? Well, let's zoom out a little bit and see. This level, for those of you who might already know, this is the all-time high of the total to market cap that we saw back in 2021. So we are officially not in price discovery until we break through this level, which of course, we have not hit into yet. So it's really important to understand that, because until we get above that level, we're all just essentially, we've got the clear levels of support and resistance. We know where we're going. It's all kind of been done before, right? If we break through, then of course it gets really, really exciting, and some interesting things potentially start to happen. So we'll have to see what happens here, but this is why I'm looking so closely at this 1.7 trillion mark, and even kind of in the more immediate term, looking really closely what happens over the next day or two. if we see altcoins continue to run over the next day or two, and this is when I'll get into like some really hopefully tangible kind of actionable advice. Again, I don't offer advice. This is my opinion of if I am looking, and this is probably what I will personally be doing. If I'm looking to, let's say, expand on any of my positions that I felt like I was maybe trying to get into more down here or something like that, if there's any types of positions like that, this is how I'm going to get into them. So there's kind of two different options here. I'll draw on the screen so we can see it. And then hopefully, let me know if this is helpful. Comment if it is, like, of course, if it is, and then you can subscribe if you want as well. But you can see here, there's kind of a couple of different things that I think will happen. As we've seen kind of through history, again, we've seen this is now in the weekly candles, so things are going to be a little bit more consolidated. But as we've seen in the past, it would not be super surprising to me if we kind of went and did something a little bit like this over the next maybe couple of days, maybe week or 2 or 3, hard to say for sure. That would be kind of potentially option 1, and then we could do maybe like a slow break through and up. Option 2 would be we do that, we go straight down, or we have option 3, which is we'll break right through with pace. Ideally, we would look to have something kind of like this happen. Maybe we even just get to the top of this this kind of liquidity zone. We come back down, we retest, and then we see another move back to the upside. This would be like peak ideal, like amazing trade, because we see some really strong fundamental force moving through the alt market. This, if I were looking to expand on a position, or if I were looking to increase my exposure to any particular altcoin, I would be looking for this type of thing to happen. So I'd look for us to break. I'd look for us to come right back down onto this level of support, hold the level of support, and then, that's kind of when I would make my entries, potentially have the really tight stop loss here. Again, trying to avoid wicks and getting wicked out. And then from there, you could be ready for that next move to the upside. The other hand here, we have potentially maybe we get rejected at this range. Maybe we even come all the way back down here, and then we see a bounce. If we see that bounce happen here, again, similar type of thing, you could set a tight stop loss and then be ready for that to move back to the upside. So those are kind of the main things that I would be personally, and I will be personally looking for as we go. Let me get rid of some of my drawings here. But that overall is kind of what I'm seeing. So I think alts looking really good, probably looking the best that they've seen in a couple of months. You could say that they were looking good here because the price was high. I don't think so. I think fundamentally alts look better right now than they did here, but we'll have to see. Time will tell. Things obviously can change in an instant. I think a lot of this will depend how we see the New York market open, right? Because again, a lot is based on the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, Bitcoin more than Ethereum. If we see a bunch of profit taking going into the open of the New York trading session tomorrow, then we might run into a little bit of some difficulties here, right? Now, we'll have to see if it continues to run tomorrow and it continues to get bid up. We've been talking about a potential supply crunch for months now. If it's finally actually happening and we finally hit that level, then we could see this run where we could see Bitcoin run potentially all the way to like 135. And if it does that, then we could essentially see alts really start to move. And I think at that point, if we saw Bitcoin at 125, 135, we could see some momentum that gets us up to and potentially even through this kind of mythical 1.7 trillion number on the total to market cap. So that's kind of what we got here. Let me take a kind of a bit of a pause here. I'm going to go take a look through some comments. I can focus on any specific coins that you guys are wanting me to look through. I'll kind of take a look there, but we'll see what we got. So thanks for joining, Ronald. Pi Network. Yeah, maybe we'll take a look at Pi. Obviously, Pi's had a bit of a rough go over the past couple of weeks. In my personal opinion, I think now, especially if we start to move into more of a frothy market, I think we could see Pi do some wild stuff. So I'm definitely keeping an incredibly close eye on Pi. We'll see. Pulse Chain is ready. Yes, Pulse Chain is a good one. Richard Hart has defeated the SEC. It feels like everybody's defeating the SEC in crypto. This is what the good news is. I like that. So yeah, I'm not super familiar with Pulse Chain. I'll have to check it out a little bit more. Edward, yes, ICP is really making some nice moves. I'm quite pleased with what we're seeing out of ICP. So I'm super, super happy with that. Let's see, fellas, get yourself some Wolf or some Andy, ASAP. Not familiar with either of those. I'll have to do some research and see. And then we also have PTGC. Everybody's throwing in their favorite tickers. That's great. I love to see it. That means people are getting excited. Hey, LA sports fan, thanks for joining in. I really appreciate all you guys spending the time and coming in and checking everything out, chatting about all the things. So we'll go over all this type of stuff. Let's see, Bitcoin topping around 150. That seems reasonable to me. We didn't really do too much Bitcoin TA on this live stream, but that seems somewhat reasonable to me. I think that's something that kind of the like 150 to 170 range is kind of what I've been thinking generally, depending on how frothy things get. I could see a world in which we potentially hit 200K, but I think that would be more of like a things are going better than expected rather than like that's like my base case. I think base case of that 150 range seems directionally correct to me. Let's see. Wolf and Andy are the best ETH beta in the market. It's not even close. All right, well, we'll check it out. We'll see. Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting things in the market. So I'm very interested to see kind of which ones win and which ones win the best. So thoughts on Naka on ETH. Is this the Nakamoto gaming one? I think I actually own some. I don't think it's much, but I do think I own some. Gaming is one that's been a little bit tough to be in over the past little while. I think gaming, people are selling the idea of gaming a lot better than the reality of it. I do think that gaming will eventually get there. We just haven't quite seen it yet. But I do think when we do see it, it will just be an absolute insane rip of a time for anything and all things gaming. We've seen a little bit of kind of some sparks of this with AVAX. So I do think that there are some things there. It's just the development cycles of games are so long and the hit rate ultimately of games is so low. It could maybe take some cycles. I don't know for sure, but yeah, I'm generally bullish on crypto gaming long term. I feel like picking the winners and losers in the crypto gaming space could be pretty difficult. So we'll have to see kind of how that ends up going. Let's see, dog token. Is this the Bitcoin one? I love Bitcoin, the dog Bitcoin. I think that one will do well. I just think we haven't really seen like meme coins have done so well. And I think a meme coin on Bitcoin eventually will have its time. And I think that will be a really big one. I actually was fairly early on into the Bitcoin ecosystem as a whole. And so that's something that I was airdropped a runestone and got my dog from the runestone that I owned. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with dog. We'll see how it goes. I haven't sold it or touched it or done anything with it. I've just been kind of hanging out and holding my dog allocation. So, all right. Question from Ryan. Can you explain why these God candles happen? Are they caused by a single giant purchase or how does that work? So Ryan, I can explain to you generally how this works. I cannot tell you for sure just because I don't actually know who's making the buys and the sells within the market. But generally what happens here is this can be kind of a little bit of like a liquidity squeeze, especially you can see this. Let's actually go and we'll find the heat maps. This could actually be something that would be really good if you want to look at this a little bit more in detail later. This can show you actually some really good and informational stuff. So okay, it's loaded up. Let me actually get like on the 1 month going. Sorry, I just got to get this pulled up so I can best show you guys. Okay, cool. So let's take a look here. You can see, Ryan, this should hopefully be really helpful for kind of explaining how this can happen. So generally TLDR is no, it's usually not caused by a single very large buy. If a single very large buy happens, more often than not, it's an OTC deal. So it doesn't actually hit like the liquid markets. It's usually done kind of off market. And so that's why it's like, you know, some people have been asking the question like, well, how has BlackRock absorbed 700,000 Bitcoin within a year? And like Bitcoin price is like kind of only just like slowly moved to the upside. It's because they're doing like primarily OTC deals, right? So it never actually hits the liquid markets that like you and I would see or participate in. Most of the liquid markets are smaller trades relatively. Again, they can still be large dollar-wise, but relatively speaking, they're still small. We're talking millions, maybe even tens of millions of dollars. Anything that's like hundreds of millions or billions, that's all for sure OTC. And I have seen and kind of been exposed to kind of how some of that world works, and it is crazy. Now, the main thing as to why these God candles happen is you can see it exactly right here. There's a little bit of like kind of like a short squeeze going on. So you can see in this range, you can see that sometimes they'll come up and then they'll kind of wipe and then they'll come back down. And this is, in my opinion, this is just completely a market maker move. They're coming up, wiping liquidation, and then coming back down. What you can see here in this type of move is you see the break, you see a little bit of that squeeze pushing up, and this squeeze gets pushed up essentially via liquidating shorts, right? So all of these people are getting liquidated. They have to cover their shorts, and that pushes price up because they're essentially getting squeezed out, right? And then you see a little bit of this. When this happens, it's because we're in there's not much of a liquidity zone right there, right? So essentially how the market works, again, trying to explain this in a simple way if possible, is you have a buyer and you have a seller. You have certain walls where there might be far more buyers than there are sellers, and you might have certain walls where there are far more sellers than there are buyers. Simply said, this is support and resistance, right? So if we go back to, let's just say, the Ethereum chart, this is a very strong level of both support and resistance, more recently resistance, because this is a very high liquidity zone, because for whatever reason at this range, there are a lot of sellers who will take profits here. Now, conversely, on support, there are a lot of buyers who will place buys here. This is essentially how support and resistances work, and this is generally how markets work. So when we start to see Bitcoin in these God candles happen and these squeezes really happen, that's because it's a function of both getting short squeezed to a degree from leverage, but then it's also because there's just no liquidity here. All of the people who were selling got sold out here, right? So now we have to find the next level at which people are willing to take profits, and price is essentially going to just free fly up until, that's why price discovery is always such an interesting thing, because we've never actually had a historical precedent for price. So people are just like, I've never had $118,000 Bitcoin before, right? Maybe I will sell it at 125,000, right? And that's why usually these psychological levels are so important, is because when you're in price discovery, there's no predefined level at which people have said, yes, this is a price that I'm happy with for my Bitcoin or Ethereum or insert crypto here. So that's usually how these God candles happen, is because there's a lack of liquidity. There's just nobody willing to sell. So anybody that wants to buy, there's not that many sellers. So price just goes up and up and up. And that's generally how that happens. If you're interested in this, I can do a little bit more of like a more detailed explanation. It will take a second, so I don't want to spend too much time. But Ryan, hopefully that helps. Let me know if you have any other kind of questions with that. Jesse, thank you for showing up. Appreciate having you here, and appreciate having all of you here, dedicating some time. Obviously, it's pretty exciting with Bitcoin hitting up against new all-time highs, and Ethereum and some alts following. So things are looking good. Yeah, happy to make the content. Really appreciate that you guys enjoy the content and all that type of good stuff. So ICP, yeah, let's do some ICP. Let's talk about that. I'm sure we'll get probably some I'm sure I'll get some more ICPs. So let's actually just go right on into that. All righty. See here. Let's go pull up ICP. There we go. ICP is looking nice. I have a very large leverage trade open on ICP, so I'm quite happy to see this move. It was looking a little tough for a while, but so anyway, this is what we got on ICP. Let me turn off auto so I can manipulate this a bit more. For any of you who have been watching the channel for a while, obviously we talk about ICP a decent bit. If you are new to the channel, ICP is something that we talk about a decent bit. And one of the reasons why is because the tech itself, I think, is kind of unmatched. It's really, really top quality tech in the crypto space. If you ask me, that is my opinion. And I think a lot of other people on the channel share the same opinion. But what we've been seeing also from a technical perspective is we've been seeing a really, really strong level of support and a super long period of accumulation happening at this range. We also have some news events coming out in the form of Caffeine AI releasing, which could have a really strong impact on price here. And so that's why I'm so excited to see this start to move a little bit, because we've seen this level of consolidation happening for months. Now, of course, job's not done yet. We have this level, this pretty strong level of resistance to break, kind of between this like $6 to like $6.30 range. This is going to be really important to break for ICP. But once we do break it, I could see a pretty strong move coming over the next several weeks or months. Again, hard to say for sure. But ICP, I'm super bullish on. We have in 5 days from now the release of Caffeine AI. So I think that could be either the news leading up to that event or the actual event itself being a massive catalyst. I could see that giving us, particularly since we're having kind of this perfect storm where the market's heating up, we're starting to see some momentum moving up into this level of support. Then we will also have the news catalyst that could push us through this level of support up into some of these other ranges that we've not seen for a little while now. So I'm quite excited for that. Will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this kind of goes, and we'll obviously be following it closely on the channel. If you are interested, of course, you know where to find me. Telcoin, yes, this is one that we haven't talked about for a while on the channel. Telcoin is good. I think Telcoin is one, again, I think it looks very similar to XRP. So I think if we see XRP making moves like it did later in the year last year, I think Telcoin could be a really, really strong beta play. There's a couple other really strong beta plays, in my opinion. For those of you who are Ondo fans or who might know of Ondo, Plume is another one that is much smaller than Ondo that I think if we see that RWA narrative take a hit, Plume will do absolutely insane numbers. So that's another thing that I'm looking quite forward to see how that all ends up shaking out. HBAR is really good. Obviously, they've got that. They've got the partnership with ICP, which is really good. They've got ton of really, really rock solid institutional backers. I was a little sad. I kind of made a HBAR video yesterday. Didn't really do particularly well, which I was a little sad about, but because I do like HBAR and I think it's cool, but maybe it's just not something that my viewers are interested in too much, which is totally cool. XLM, yes, made a video about XLM today. I actually started the stream with XLM up, so we can go back to it, but it actually looks like it's kind of breaking through that support we are talking about in this morning's video as we speak. So we'll have to see it. We'll have to monitor it and see how it goes. But you can see potentially, we've seen a wick, so maybe we're getting rejected, but I do think that there is the momentum that we could see it continue through. And again, as I've mentioned before, kind of with other charts and stuff, break, retest, continuation is really what we're looking for. This would be ideal for XLM, and it would be ideal for any type of altcoin that seems to be in this similar type of situation. So we'll have to see. One thing I will say, to not to throw caution into the wind, but I will say we are starting to see this on a lot. Whoops, I need to get on the right thing. We're starting to see this on a lot of different altcoins and a lot of different cryptos more generally that I would say be very, very careful of. Whenever we start to see candles sitting outside of the Bollinger Bands, particularly on the daily charts, and we see the RSI coming above into this overbought range, very, very dangerous. If we want to go back, I can show you basically infinite numbers of examples where this almost always comes back to true at some point. Now, again, that doesn't mean it's going to come back to here, right? It might just stutter out a couple days at this level of resistance and then break through, give chances for RSI to reset a little bit, give chances for the Bollinger Bands to kind of catch up. All of this type of stuff, like it can happen, right? It's very, very common for this to happen. And if you guys want me to go through and look at examples, we can. I won't waste your time. We'll kind of continue on with comments just because I know there's a lot of people with comments in here, but check it out. Check it out. It's almost unheard of for this to continue for more than a couple days of time. And so we already are 1 day out here on XLM. So just be very careful. This is something that is very important. And again, I don't want to like dampen the mood here, but I could see potentially some stalling out or maybe even a little bit of some retracement happening here, particularly on XLM. So we'll see. But yeah. Let's see, where's all the volume coming from? Looks like we got a couple here. Okay. If it's from one exchange, then a big correction coming. It's more of symmetrical. I'm trying to piece this together, but it's probably fine. Yeah, basically like it's probably fine if it's all coming from different exchanges. That is a great call. Let me look. I think I can actually find the volume through Where's it at? Oh, one other thing I wanted to show you guys just really quickly is this pretty insane move. This happens. It's actually happening more frequently because crypto is becoming more of a mature market. But $1 billion liquidated in the past 24 hours. Of course, basically all shorts, and the majority coming from Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is sitting at all-time highs. So, makes sense as to why it's happening. But yeah, shorts getting absolutely trashed over the past 24 hours. So we'll have to see, kind of what happens there over the next little while. I want to go find the volume thing here, because if we find volume, essentially, yeah, tracking where volume comes from would actually be really important. I might have to do some research on this or some looking off camera, just because I don't want to waste your guys' time. But yeah, tracking volume would be really interesting to see. But from what I can tell, usually kind of a fairly simple way to look into this in terms of like a mismatch of volume between exchanges is if you see the price on exchanges vary greatly. And we're not really seeing prices on exchanges very greatly. And so I think it's more of just a general uplift in the market. We're seeing volume up about 30% today. So we're seeing about $350 billion of volume just happening today. So I do think it's probably just a general uplift. Again, this happens. Usually market makers will move. You'll have a liquidity squeeze. People jump in because they get excited. They start putting longs, all of this type of stuff, a whole spike in volume. That generally can kind of make this type of thing happen. So, but ab cool or AB cool, really good call out though. I do appreciate that. Let's see. I'm not even trying to say this name. I apologize. I'm sorry, but 8-year gang. So I know you're part of the ICP community. Really, really appreciate all your support. But let's see, if even possible, I wonder how complicated would it be to create your own streaming service like Plex, for example, with caffeine for home use. This is a really great call out. Honestly, I am so interested to see what happens with Caffeine AI as it releases. This is something that is going to be super, super interesting to watch, because obviously the tech for ICP is fantastic. They've been struggling a little bit from kind of an application layer, like essentially getting people to actually do stuff and use things on ICP. I think caffeine could potentially be that golden ticket. We'll have to see. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different things that you could potentially do with Caffeine AI that I think would be super, super cool. So I'm looking very closely at all the different things. I've applied for early use on Caffeine AI. We'll see if I get it. If I do, obviously, I'll be creating tons of content around it just to see all the different interesting and cool things I can do with it. But yeah, we'll have to see. Ryan, yeah, of course, not a problem, man. Yeah, really appreciate all your guys' support, of course. All you guys essentially make this possible, so I really appreciate all the support and all the engagement, interaction. I love talking about crypto, and so I'm really grateful and appreciative that I have a community that wants to hear me talk about crypto and will interact with me and talk back. So yeah, really appreciate it. And of course, happy to explain anything. If you guys have any questions, feel free. So really appreciate it. More wealth. Yeah, I'll have to check out Pulse Chain. That's a really interesting one. I'll put that on the list. I will say, just as kind of a call out to everybody watching right now, I do actually look at every single coin that gets called out in my comment sections and anything like that, because a lot of you guys are really, really smart and really good, and kind of what you're talking about. And obviously I have limited time, and so I try and do as much of my own research as I can with finding new things. But a lot of recommendations, I kind of take that as like an initial kind of first step past, as if somebody subscribed to me or following me thinks it's a good idea and worth looking at, then I usually kind of give that a little bit of credit and take a closer look. So I will for sure take a look at Pulse Chain. I have mentioned, or I have looked at a couple of things in the past kind of surrounding the Pulse Chain community. It seems interesting. So yeah, we'll check it out. Yes, Zebek. So Zebek, I think I'm going to be doing a video. I don't know. My video list is kind of crammed. I think I'm going to do one probably later in the week, maybe over the weekend. Well, actually, no, I think I'm going to do a general altcoin video tomorrow, just talking about how like the state of altcoins more generally. And I expect to have Zebek being one of the main topics of conversation. And we can actually, let's chat about it right now actually too, because Zebek has done some ridiculous stuff over the past couple of days. It looks like right now we're seeing a little bit of a retrace, which honestly I'm not at all surprised at, because we saw like a 50% move in one day, which is wild. So let's go back and we'll pull this up really quick. We can take a look at Zebek. But yeah, I mean, look at that. That's a ridiculous move. Obviously, so we saw this like, 800% move or 900% move over the span of a couple weeks. We had been bleeding out a little bit. Again, this is not at all a concern in my opinion. When you've seen this type of move, again, still, higher lows are in play here. So that's fine. And then we saw, like literally a 50% jump in one day or something like that. Ridiculous. Now, obviously we're coming back a little bit. What I would hope to see out of the Zebek coin and the Zebek community would be kind of coming up, breaking this level of resistance. And then ideally, if we could put in a larger macro high, so we would see essentially, I'll just kind of zoom out a little bit so we could kind of see how this would look. We'd see lower low, higher low, lower high, and then we saw something up here around like higher high. This would be an absolutely fantastic kind of like macro structure for Zebek. And so I think that this would be really great to see. Of course, time will tell. But yeah, that would be really great to see. So obviously, it still has the momentum. We saw it even just in the moves over the past couple of days. We'll go from there. So, alrighty, let's take a quick look at some of these others. Jesse, yeah, please do smash the like button. Let's keep getting more people in here. Of course, I love interacting with all of you guys, and that's why I continue to do the live streams. I think it's super fun. Really appreciate kind of getting to speak with all of you on a more live basis. Obviously, I do read and respond to all my comments, but it is fun to have this more of like a live type of thing. So let's see. Fat knot. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're referring to. But let me know if I'm confused on something. I probably am. And then let's see. Thoughts on Say versus Sui. Which layer one has more potential? This is a really interesting one. I don't know if any of you told me, if any of you told me that in my last Sui video, or my last Say video, I guess, I accidentally misspoke and said Sui at the beginning. I got a little bit of hate for that, or not hate. Nobody was really mean. They just gave me a hard time, which fair. But yeah, so Say versus Sui, it's hard to say. I mean, I think Sui has. Okay. Sorry, I'll come back. I just saw this. Tajakis equals fat knot. Okay, so maybe this is like Dutch or something. Sorry, I'm an ignorant American. I apologize, but so. Yeah, going back to this Say versus Sui, it's hard to say because obviously Sui has seen, again, I'm getting them confused. Sui has seen kind of more immediate upside. So I think that's good to see that it has legs and it kind of has that potential. Say really hasn't seen that yet. But I also think like I really truly do kind of lump Say and Sui very, very closely together to each other. And so I'm interested to see kind of how that ends up working out. And how that ends up looking kind of over a longer period of time. So I do think Say has potential. I think Sui has shown that it can move. Say kind of has, but not to the same degree as Sui. And so I don't know. To me, the reason I kind of lump both of them together so closely is because, in my opinion, they're both VC coins. They both function very, very similar. They're both selling the same story. I don't know. Like everybody's been selling the same story. Layer one, fast time to finality, super scalable. Who does it? I don't know. Maybe they both do it. Maybe neither of them do it. Obviously, Sui seems to have kind of better partnerships coming through than Say does, but Say's also, been performing relatively well also. So it's hard to say for sure. But yeah, that's I don't really know what to make of each. If I was looking kind of for exposure to kind of like new gen layer ones, I realistically would probably keep my position split between both. And that's kind of what I have done. I don't hold either of them because VC coins freak me out, particularly over a long kind of holding period of time. So but like I do trade both of them, and I trade both of them fairly actively. So that's something where it's like I probably would just kind of keep positions similarly sized in both of them. Let's see. Yeah, you're very welcome, Roha. I'm here because Tyler told me to be. That's great. Yeah, Tyler's a homie. So yeah, no, appreciate you being here. Really appreciate all the time and support and everything. Yeah, don't forget to hit the like button too if you're enjoying it. Swedish. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I appreciate you walking me through that. Let's see. Autos and Proppy. Yes, autos haven't really heard too much about. Proppy is one. I really like Proppy. So I was actually invested in a crypto in 2021 that was basically doing what Proppy was doing. Didn't really work out because of the whole FTX thing. The regulators really kind of put the screws to crypto companies. And for some of the smaller ones, obviously that didn't work out too well in the long term. So feel kind of bad about that, but that's an idea just kind of generally at a high level that I think is a multi-$100 billion idea, potentially even $1 trillion idea over a long enough period of time. Not saying that's going to happen in a year, not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. But I do think that over a long period of time that is actually something that is super, super doable. And so that's something that, Proppy's actually, I got into it for a while. I got out of it for some reason. I think I might have transitioned into Solana. I can't remember, but yeah, Proppy's really cool. I think that idea generally, something will happen there. I'm just speaking with knowledge kind of in living in the US, but the title insurance industry is like a multi-billion-dollar a year industry, and something like Proppy and just like NFTs or like crypto properties on chain, essentially, like the title insurance completely or like crypto completely removes any need for that type of industry. It eliminates it basically overnight. So that's something that I like, that will happen, right? It's a more efficient way to do it. Like title insurance is so expensive because the like process of sorting out like the actual title ownership and things is super, super long, and it kind of sucks. Like, so if you can make it orders of magnitude more efficient, you've got a major idea on your hands there, right? So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Proppy. I think Proppy will do big things. It's one of those things where it's like, obviously you have limited time and limited money. You have to just kind of pick which things you're most interested in. So Proppy's one that I kind of transitioned out of, but I'll probably come back to it at some point, particularly if RWA continues to pick up. Let's see. Have you talked about Jasmy? I've not talked about Jasmy in a while. Frankly, there hasn't been much to talk about. I really don't like making videos when there's not really anything to talk about, because I don't want to bait you guys. So I really try to only talk about stuff where like things are happening. And unfortunately, and it kind of is disheartens me to say this a little bit, but we haven't really seen much action coming out of Jasmy over the past couple of months. The team's been relatively AWOL. Again, they've kind of been always AWOL, but like we've seen kind of price bleed a little bit. The team's been kind of AWOL. Maybe they're working on stuff. They probably are. That's usually the cadence in which they do things. But we are starting to see, I actually have the Jasmy chart opened up right now. Let me just change this a little bit. But you can see, like, we're starting to see some signs of life out of Jasmy. But over the past little while, it's been remarkably boring and uneventful. You can see, especially when we look at some of what we saw, back in 2024 and all that. It's been a little boring. So I think if things start to pick up with Jasmy, we start to get to see some more releases. We see some traction out of Junction. We see some tractions with the personal data locker and all that type of stuff. I'll have more to talk about there. But yeah, Jasmy's one that I do find quite interesting. So let's see. Yeah, no, you're super welcome, McKin. Happy to answer any questions or any thoughts that you guys want my opinion on, things like that. Super happy to do it. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. First time here, is a pump site or actual info? I'll let you decide. I like to think it's actual info, but yeah, I can let you decide on that one. ICP, yeah, ICP I think is fantastic. We've already been over the ICP chart. We can take another look it looks like we have a couple people joining in. We'll take another quick look at it. Also take a look maybe at, yeah, actually looks like it keeps moving, which is good to see. So yeah, let me just pull this up a little bit. Here we go. But yeah, ICP looking nice. We're starting to see, obviously we had this like kind of multi-months long consolidation after a really difficult sell-off, obviously, but alts generally have had a really rough go over the past couple of months. So we've seen a nice little bounce coming in here, which is really, really good to see. Again, as I mentioned, this is the kingpin. We got to knock off this like kind of $6 to $6.30 range. If we can do that, things are looking really nice. So James, oh, good. Glad you're getting some nice info. I appreciate it. Yeah, I do my best. So obviously I'm not infallible. I don't know everything that there is in the world, but I try to give it at least a good, well-rounded take when I can give them. So let's see. Internet computer for the novice. Hey, thanks for my videos. What do you think about ICP going on charts? It has some work to do. 100%. Yeah. So I guess I'll give a TLDR on ICP. We've already been over the chart, so I don't want to belabor it too much. But ICP, I think from a tech perspective, fantastic. Super, super bullish about caffeine AI. I'm hopeful that it will do well. Again, time will tell. 5 days from now is when it comes out. I think driving some adoption to the Internet Computer Protocol is exactly what I would be hoping for it, and I'm hoping we can get out of it. Depending on what happens there, I'll be super, super pleased or disappointed, essentially. If it goes well and we kind of see things working in real time, kind of like what we saw in the demo, then I think it'll be great. If we do not, then potentially we're going to be seeing some less than fortunate moves happening. And I realistically could, particularly where we're sitting at with the chart, kind of that like low $4 range is kind of where we've kind of held up at support for several different points in time. We could potentially break below that. So I am a little bit nervous if the launch goes poorly. We could kind of be in a little bit of a free fall there. So we'll have to see. But I am quite optimistic. I do think the tech there is really, really good and it's really strong. At this point, it's just about adoption and kind of getting it in front of more people. So we'll have to see kind of how that works. Vets via VeChain. I have honestly not really done too much with VeChain. Again, it's one of those things. There's so many cryptos out there. In order to understand them and know them well, you do need to spend some time on them. And I haven't had that much time. So I'm going to withhold any judgment on VeChain just because I haven't done as much as I should. So it's actual info. Yeah, I appreciate it, Jesse. I like to think so, but obviously everybody has a different bar for that. So let's see. If we see a pullback, how big do you think it can be? Also technicals on Peanut or Pengu. Ooh, Peanut. It's been a while since I've heard that one. Pengu, we can do some technicals on. It's already moved pretty decent. So, and it's just been absolutely ripping. This is kind of something that gives me a little bit of some inspiration or some motivation that we might see a decent move out of Ethereum. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I think it launched on Solana anyway, but the Pudgy Penguins are on Ethereum. So at least I think that's right. Maybe I'm an idiot, but yeah, so we can see, let's pull this up really quick. We can see here Pengu, obviously a really nice breakout. We're kind of moving back. It would not surprise me if we kind of teleport right back up to this like 0.2248 range, just because there's not really any sort of liquidity between here and there. So that's something that I could imagine seeing. However, we don't know for sure. Things looking okay. We're like kind of getting towards the top of the Bollinger Bands here, and we are kind of overbought on RSI. So there is the possibility that we could potentially see, a little bit of a retrace here on Pengu. Peanut, we'll see if BloFin has Peanut. Let's see, Peanut. And they do. Yeah, so Peanut, let's see how this one ends up looking. Yeah, so here we can see a decent bit of a move to the upside here off Peanut. Obviously, we saw Peanut do some wild stuff kind of prior to the or I guess during like December when everything was going crazy, falling down basically like 99% since then. But we can see here nice little move. I would say, kind of the 30-cent range is going to be the next big level of resistance. And then after that, we're going to see something kind of in this 48 to like 59-cent range. Kind of this whole area has got a little bit of liquidity. And then from there, it's probably clear all the way back to $1. So we'll see. Things right now, not overbought on RSI, but it is overextended on the Bollingers. Again, Bollingers can catch up quite quickly with price movement. So even if it just kind of slows down a little bit for the next couple of days, we could still see a sustained move coming out of Peanut. So we'll see there. All right, next one. We got great timing on the caffeine release, though. If it hits, it will run 100%. I was actually talking about that a little bit earlier, is given that we're starting to see some price momentum going up into that really difficult kind of like $6 to $6.30 range. If we actually do see caffeine hit, it will very likely give us the momentum to blow through that and then hopefully continue on up from there. So really excited to see what happens with caffeine AI. I'm really looking forward to it. Chain key stuff, all the chain key stuff. I heard people talking about chain key Bitcoin like rising, I think 30% in a day. That's pretty interesting. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with all the chain key stuff. That I think is pretty interesting there. So we'll have to see. But yeah, I think the tech of ICP is really, really quite interesting. I also think a bit of a sleeper here. This is something I've been talking about somewhat quietly, mostly because people don't really care to listen to it. But one of the things I have been talking about over the past months and months and months is ICP actually, I think, does a uniquely good job at unlocking development on Bitcoin. A lot of people are trying to develop directly on Bitcoin and are running into problems, understandably, because it wasn't designed to do that. But because of the chain key technology that ICP has, you can effectively build directly on Bitcoin, but also not at the same time, because you're utilizing the tech that ICP's developed. I think that could really hit if we see a little bit of a Bitcoin rotation into other types of Bitcoin stuff. So we'll have to see for sure. But yeah, that is something that I am kind of continually taking a close look at. Muhammad, welcome back. It's good to see you. Bitcoin to 150K in play. Then it will Iran dive to 25K guarantee. Who knows? We'll have to see. Muhammad, you do always have hot takes, so we'll have to see. You've been calling for 25K for a while, so honestly, if it happened in the short term, it would kind of suck, but I would love it. I would probably be buying as many Bitcoins as I could get my hands on. So I would not be super mad if that happened, although I do find it quite unlikely. Again, who knows? I'm not going to say never. It's crypto. I've been in crypto long enough to know that you never say anything is impossible. All right. Peanut is on ETH and Pengu's on Sol. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for clearing that up. Yeah, I thought for a second Pengu might have been, but also Pengu, the NFTs are on ETH. I don't know. I got confused there. So thank you for pointing that out, Jesse. The other thing I also wanted to talk about, as we're kind of talking about the possibility or the potential of Altseason, 2 days from now is the Pump Fund sale, or the Pump Fund ICO, I think is what they're calling it. And then they're doing an airdrop at some point in the future after that. So I'm really, really interested to see how this impacts the crypto market at large. I think it's going to go probably one of two ways. I think it can go the way that we saw in early 2023 or early 2024. After Solana kind of made its big run, we started to see Solana protocols do quite well. We started to see a bunch of airdrops coming in. People on Solana got really, really rich, and then they started buying crazy stuff, and that's when NFTs. We basically saw a mini alt season limited specifically to Solana. I think this Pump Fund token, again, it's a $4 billion fully diluted valuation is what they're asking. They're going to be airdropping 24% of it is put aside for community engagement, whatever that means. So potentially up to, if all of that means airdrop, potentially up to $1 billion worth of value could be airdropped to the community. Now that would be an insane amount of money that could, potentially really kick off a little bit of an alt season rotation. So that's something that I'm going to be looking very, very closely at as well, because we're seeing we're seeing a whole bunch of things kind of collide together, right? We're already seeing some bullish sentiment Bitcoin's kicking new all-time highs. We've got this potential multi-billion-dollar liquidity event happening for Pump.Fun. We're seeing Ethereum potentially show signs of life. We're on the verge of rate cuts, quite possibly. If it's not happening in July, it's almost certainly happening in September. The tariff thing may be coming back, but also people don't seem to care this time. So like from a macro perspective, so many things that are happening are really, really important, and they're really, really valuable. So I'm quite pleased with what we're seeing here. If you are interested, obviously hit the like if you find it useful. Would love to kind of keep pushing this out to more people. But also if you are interested as well and you want to talk more about some of these things and some of the things that I'm seeing, I haven't been pretty good at it in the past, but I am trying to make the commitment to be more involved and interactive within my Discord channel. The link should be in the description below. It's going to take you to Patreon. It's free. I just try to do that to keep bots to a minimum. We'll see if it works or not. I don't know. But if you are interested and you want to kind of stay in touch, join my private community, talk to me a little bit more directly, any of that type of stuff, just check the link in the description below and go ahead and get signed up for that. Like I said, it's free, just if you want to or not. Alrighty. Oh, yes. I am familiar with this one, Mohammed Metis. Yes. So Vitalik's mom created a project. It's a layer 2. It's called Metis. This is something that is interesting, right? Because for a while in like early 2023, it was absolutely smashing. Or no, 2024. It was kind of when we saw that little bit of that mini alt rotation in like March of 2024. We saw Metis go absolutely gangbusters. Since then, it's basically gone to not zero, but it's like down 90 or more percent. And this is the kind of the problem with VC coins. They essentially dilute into oblivion. So I think it's really interesting, particularly if ETH catches a bid. It would not at all surprise me if Metis goes nuts, primarily because of the narrative purely. But the other thing that does kind of make me a little concerned here with this question and with Metis DAO is like, yes, from a narrative perspective, I think it's interesting, but you also have to look at the competition on ETH. You have Arbitrum. Obviously, Arbitrum's been around for a while. You've got Optimism. Like the majority of the layer 2s are built on the OP stack. You have Polygon, who's really trying to make some really big waves with their like what are they calling it? Their ag layer. You've got Base. I mean, enough said. It's Base. You've got Robinhood, who's apparently trying to make an L2. I'd be very surprised if they did it anywhere other than Ethereum. You have so many other things happening in the Ethereum ecosystem that I kind of wonder, I kind of wonder a little bit if we can actually see too much momentum heading into Metis just because of the competition. I mean, even just Robinhood and Base themselves, I mean, those are absolute giants. I think you're gonna have a really tough time competing against them. Again, could be wrong, who knows? But yes, that's kind of my thoughts on Metis. I think it's interesting, but we'll have to see. So it looks like we're pushing 90 viewers almost. We were there for a second. Never been to 100 viewers before. So if you want to hit the like button, I think it'd be super cool. If we could try to get to 100 viewers concurrently, that'd be kind of nice. But anyway, that's enough of my shilling. So let's see. Where can XCN reach this year? Over 5 cents soon. XCN is a difficult one because XCN is one it's like the most, it feels like it's the most hype of hype coins, right? Yes, it obviously has stuff that it does. They did release their new like AI agent thing, which again, hype, right? But it does actually seem cool and it does seem like it works. But a lot of what's moved Onyx Coin to this point, the first time it moved like majorly in January is primarily off of like speculation that Elon was going to be building like Doge or something, or Elon was going to be like porting government agencies essentially onto Onyx chain or Onyx Coin. So it's like it's the most hype of hype, right? So, and that's not to say it's a bad thing. I just think it really depends on how the markets move. If the markets move in the direction of this type of thing, if we see XRP continue to run, if we see things like that, then I think Onyx Coin will of course do very well. Without that, it's hard to say. And that's not to say, I'm not hating on Onyx Coin. I understand the product that they're trying to build. I understand all of that, but it does feel very, very like more hype cycle-y than most of the others, I would say at this point. So we'll have to see exactly what goes on there. Let's see. We'll have to give me 1 second. We gotta do some putting people in timeout because they're spamming comments. All right, cool. Yeah, really appreciate it, James. Hopefully I won't let you down. I try to provide, kind of mild mannered, measured content within the crypto space. Not at all a moon boy, not at all a maxi for anything. So, yeah, really appreciate the support. It does mean a lot to me. So, let's see, Julian Kruger, Altseason. Let's hope. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but I will make it very simple for all of you who have just tuned in. This is the total 2 market cap. So this is everything in crypto aside from Bitcoin. If we expect to see Altseason, this has to break. Until we get here, no Altseason. Get here, maybe Altseason. I think that's probably that is probably the most simple way I can kind of define it there, just without kind of wasting too much time, just because we have already been over it. But yeah, thank you for tuning in, Julian. Really appreciate having you here. RBNT Red, but I've not heard of this one either. I'll have to throw this in on the list of things to check out and look at, because yeah, that's another one I've not heard of. If you want to provide me a little bit of a TLDR, would appreciate it. Just so I can maybe provide some commentary on there, but I don't like commenting on things that I don't at least have some idea on, just because I don't want to mislead any of you. So Jose, really appreciate it. Yeah, that means a lot. I really appreciate all of the kind comments and feedback. I try really hard, to provide good value. And, I think a lot of the ways and a lot of the reasons that I kind of do what I do is I've been watching crypto YouTube for a long time. And there's a lot of things that I've just kind of picked up over time where I'm like, I just don't really like that. I wish they would do this, or I wish they wouldn't say that. And so I try to keep that in mind constantly when I make videos of understanding well, if I was watching this video, what would I want? So yeah, really appreciate all of the support, guys. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really appreciate it, Roha. Super nice of you. Let me see. Muhammad, I don't think I can make you a mod from because I'm in StreamYard, so I don't think I can do it from here, but I will try to remember after the stream and I can do that. Because yeah, I do appreciate helping with the spammers and the scammers, all that type of stuff. For those of you, PSA to anybody who might be new, I know we have 81 people watching, so I'm not sure everybody's experience level or anything like that. But for those of you who might be new, just as a general PSA, be very, very, very careful in YouTube comment sections for anybody saying, if hopefully this sounds relatively obvious to most of you, but if it's not, just be very, very careful. Scammers are everywhere. Crypto is dangerous. Just if it sounds too good to be true, it almost certainly is. If I am reaching out to you asking for money or whatever, I'm not. I'm not going to be asking any of you for money. So if you see things that are probably too good to be true, they probably are, and just be very careful. For some of you who are more seasoned, I'm sure preaching to the choir here, but I just want to make sure that people aren't getting scammed and aren't getting harmed just because they might be new to the space, because I know that usually happens. More people are checking things out when price goes up. So yeah, be careful. Don't do anything crazy. So I love so small you can actually interact. Not used to on crypto. Yeah, it is nice. It is nice having that kind of the smaller channel, just to I do like going through and seeing all the comments and chatting with all you, answering questions. I like to make it as interactive as possible. Part of the reason why I made a crypto channel just kind of generally is because I just love talking about crypto. And I really enjoy talking to other people who like crypto or trying to learn or whatever. Really appreciate just people who are interested in the space generally. And kind of more than anything else, I just want crypto to be successful. That's kind of my main goal more than anything. I have certain projects that I like more than others. I even have certain projects that I don't really love, but more than anything else, I just want to see crypto be successful, however that looks and whatever that means. So that's kind of my main goal more than anything else. So yeah, really appreciate all of the support from everybody. Let's see. Any thoughts on Tom Lee and BMNR? It was wild. I'll have to check. I still have a full-time job. I'm an accountant. So I most of the day I spend kind of working pretty heads down. So I don't get a chance to catch up on kind of the news of the day too much until later in the evening. So but yeah, I really appreciate the call out there. I'll have to check out Tom Lee and BMNR and that whatever happened there. So yeah, I'm not really super read up on that yet, just because I've been working all day. But yeah, do appreciate the comments and kind of point me in the right direction there. So I will make sure to check out on that. So alrighty, let's see what else we got. Trying to see if there's anything crazy going on here. Let's see. Any comments? I feel like I haven't seen any comments. I feel like I haven't seen any comments coming through X. Let's see. Can I go into my own X thing? Oh, I can't. It's gonna hit me with sound. Okay, I got it. Let me look. Have we gotten? Okay, we gotten a couple of comments in here. Oh no. Okay, it does look like they're coming through. Never mind. Sweet. Well, yeah, really appreciate all the support and everything that like I said, like, subscribe, all that type of stuff. If you're watching on Twitter or X, I guess, you can check out my YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, you can check out my Twitter. Do a little bit of cross promotion in there. So let's see. Oh, sorry. I apologize for the slang here. TLDR it's an acronym. It's too long, didn't read. So basically it's a quick like acronym of like essentially like give me a brief summary, I guess is kind of the quick way to say that. So if you wanted to, I would appreciate that. But of course, I can do my own research there. It's not the end of the world. Let's see if we got anything going on X right now. Let's see. Yeah, we're getting some more. Everybody's bull posting because price is going up. Love to see that. That's just generally how it goes. Yeah, 116K Bitcoin. That's nice. Have we officially hit 3,000 on Ethereum yet? We should check that out. Maybe we can have an Ethereum party. Let's see. Hi. Yeah, we did. We barely hit $3,003. So that's great to see. Cool. What else do we got? I should drink some water. My throat's starting to get scratchy. Alrighty. Yes. Dopamine. This is a great call. We actually talked about this earlier on in the stream. Let's actually go back to it right now. This is super, super important. And this is something that people cannot get distracted by, because this, at least in my opinion, and from what I've seen in my experience over time, this is never wrong, like ever. So let's take a look here at the Bitcoin exchange liquidation map on the 1 day. And this is, if you're a follower of my channel and you've seen me on YouTube, all this type of stuff, I talk about this occasionally. I don't talk about it super frequently, but I do talk about it occasionally when it's worth checking out. You can see here, very much skewed to a move to the downside, just because there are $5.11 billion of long liquidations. If the market makers were to push the market down to 104K, they essentially make $5 billion. They move it to the upside, they make 700 million. A little bit of an incentive to move it to the downside. Again, we can all put our tinfoil hats on or whatever if you think that this is if this is too much for you. But in my experience, I've rarely seen when this is incorrect. Conversely, if you look at the 7-day time frame, so a little bit of a longer time frame, you can see here 12.74 billion if price were to get pushed down to that 98, let's say $99,000 range. 1.16 if it continues to move up to 130. So again, there's a massive incentive to start to push moves to the downside and start to liquidate people on the downside. Again, market makers like money. This is an easy way to make money, particularly to get people like within this range that might be over leveraged. You can see here, upside 1.6 billion, downside 20 billion, right? And now this is exactly what you were calling out, dopamine. So yeah, down to 96K, $20 billion. This is, yeah, you have to be very, very careful. In my opinion, again, this is something that has basically never been wrong that I have experienced. So you just have to be very, very careful and make sure that you understand what you're doing. Yeah, I mean, simple as that. You have to be careful because even if you look here down to 113,000, which is like that's not a big move, right? I mean, that's almost $2 billion liquidated. So it's huge amounts of money that like essentially people jump in when they start to see green candles. Again, this is exactly, I understand this is easier said than done, but this is exactly why it's the golden rule, right? Be greedy when others are fearful and be fearful when others are greedy. Because particularly in crypto, where we know the exchanges are in the markets are manipulated, what do you think is going to happen? Right? So again, tinfoil hat off if you don't believe that. I don't understand why you wouldn't believe that, but if you think I'm crazy, we'll divert into something else. Let's see. I said I'm an accountant. What's going on with crypto taxes on American projects? Honestly, I mean, right now the tax code kind of hasn't really changed too much with digital assets. It's like I think it kind of sucks. Honestly, it's like every time you trade into something, it's a taxable event. Again, this is not tax advice. Let me be very, very clear. I am an accountant, but I don't do taxes. So I have a loose working understanding of taxes in crypto, but I'm more of like a financial accountant. So I work with like financial modeling, and I work primarily with like venture-backed startups is primarily what I work with. So, but yeah, so that's what I do for my day job. But yeah, with crypto taxes on American projects, I think it's not necessarily if you're kind of alluding to the issue of crypto projects in America, I don't necessarily think it's a tax thing. Obviously, being in Dubai and not paying taxes is a benefit. The biggest issue we were having with crypto projects in America is the fact that effectively what was happening is the SEC was taking crypto projects in and they would say, tell us your problems, tell us the questions you need answers to, tell us the regulations you need to like operate within the bounds of the SEC. And then they would say, okay, great, here are all the problems. And then they would immediately turn around and smack them with a Wells notice. And a Wells notice essentially means you're out of compliance with the SEC. Well, no, duh. That's why they were there talking to the SEC about the rules that need to be fixed, right? And so that was essentially the main problem with crypto in the US up until a couple months ago. And now obviously the SEC has become much more pro crypto. And so that to me is the biggest issue there and is the thing that needs to be kind of highlighted. In my opinion, taxes, yes, it's a little bit outdated. I don't think it really makes the most sense for how crypto really interacts, but it is what it is. That's how we do it, right? So they're essentially using it as like more of a, like you're trading stocks, right? Except for you might, like if you're trading into stable coins and trading into this to trade into that, like you're not really trying to buy Ethereum. You just need to buy Ethereum to get to the layer 2 coin that you want to buy. So, but again, I get it. I just think there's a better way because it's a bit of a hassle. And also the like accounting softwares for crypto kind of aren't great at this point in time. Anyway, that's enough about taxes. I'm sure I've bored you all enough with taxes. Jose, yeah, exactly why I'm not aping into anything. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Today, you know, I opened up a couple like low leverage longs just because we did take out some pretty like critical levels of resistance on certain coins. But yeah, I'm not going in and like you can see here, actually, let me go back to the stage. You can see here, oh, maybe it doesn't do it on this one. It does it on this above one where you can see like where people are opening 100x leverage plays. So you can see like there's so many 100x leverage plays. Even if we look at like, and again, this is just Binance. We could go through and look at all the exchanges individually. But like if we go down to 114,000, like there's $500 million that gets liquidated off of Binance because people are going nuts on 100x plays. Why? I don't know. But that's what's happening. And so you can kind of get a sense of where the like level of leverage lies too. And you can also see here as kind of shorts are starting to stack up at this like recent all-time high effectively, you can see that the leverage here is a lot shorter or a lot smaller than the leverage that people are playing with here. Again, because people are getting greedy. And so without a doubt, in my opinion, this will be coming back. The only thing I will say as a caveat, like I've basically been able to trade over the past 8 to actually close to a year at this point, like almost exclusively using this chart. The only thing I will say that this chart is not good for is exact timing and exact direction, right? So for example, we can see that this is very obviously skewed to the downside. We are going to see a correction almost certainly. When? Don't know. How much higher we go until we see a correction? Don't know, right? So that's kind of the only caveat with this map here is like, it's very good at being directionally correct, but as far as exact specifics of timing and exact pricing, it's not as great as I wish it would be. So anyway, that's what we got. Luis, welcome back to the channel. Really appreciate you tuning in. Yeah, so for everybody watching and those of you who don't know, Luis is my 57th subscriber. That's why he's number 57. And I gave him the nickname El Rey because he's the king, because he was my 57th subscriber. So yeah, really appreciate you tuning in, Luis. Luis is a channel OG quite literally. And I really appreciate all of your support and you continuing to tune in over time. So yeah, really appreciate it, man. Let's see. Exactly why I'm not aping in anything. I heard you made Tyler his millions. Yeah, I wish that I made Tyler his millions, but yeah, no, Tyler's a good friend. I really like Tyler, and we do some stuff together with like work and things. But yeah, no, Tyler's great. He has a really high quality channel. He's been super key. Like there's no way I could have done this without him. He's the one who kind of pushed me to create my channel to begin with. So yeah, super grateful for Tyler. I'm actually going to be hanging out with Tyler this weekend. So I leave this evening to go hang out with him. So I'm excited for that. I think that's going to be a really good time. So, alrighty. What else do we have going on? I think we're kind of, oh wow, geez, it's already been an hour and a half. Time flies when you're having fun. So I really appreciate all you guys joining in and, you know, kind of chatting around. Let's see what else, if we have anything going on in the Xverse before we kind of maybe hit the pause button on this live stream. So let's see. Oh, here we go. An unknown whale just had $88.5 million Bitcoin USDT short liquidated in a single order. Wow. That's crazy. Let's see. Yeah, things looking good. Everybody's bull posting. That's basically all we're getting right now, which is very fair. So we'll have to see kind of how it tracks over time. But basically, you know, maybe we'll do a little bit of shilling before we go off. If you are interested, of course, and you're looking to do some leverage trading, again, you know, I don't offer advice in terms of what's best in terms of specific trades, but you can use the links to either BTCC or BloFin in the description below if you are interested. Really great places to trade. BTCC is doing a 10% bonus on first-time deposits, as well as up to $10,055 of deposit and deposit and volume bonuses. So really good deal there. BloFin also up to $5,000, I believe. And one of the reasons why I've been working with BloFin is because I've started working with this quant team that created this bot called Sat Sentinel. It's really cool. It's developed by this group called Quantoshi, if I can speak. And you can see here, it's done 10% in the past 7 days. It's done really well. You can see it's only had a max drawdown of about 6.5%, has a win rate of 100%, and it has an annualized ROI of about 168%. So if this is something where you're I personally really like to do more like set it and forget it type of strategies. This is a really nice bot. It essentially trades Bitcoin. So you're not going into like super crazy, like, bonding curve pump fund tokens or anything crazy like that. It's literally just it's just trading Bitcoin. They've got some algorithm. I don't know. It does well. I've actually been tracking this for several months because I've been looking. I was like, hey, this could be an interesting thing to both use myself as well as kind of put it on the channel. So if you are interested, of course, no pressure either way. It's just I personally am a huge sucker for trading bots. So if you are interested, you could feel free to get signed up. You do have to sign up using my BloFin link right here. Also, BloFin link is in the description below. So if you're interested, I don't actually think I have put this in. I'll post the links around, but yeah, really appreciate it. Let's see, Roha, gotta run, but you're awesome. Thanks for the info. Yeah, really appreciate it. I'm also going to be kind of winding this down here in a second. I just kind of want to talk to you about all the things that I've got if you are interested. But yeah, so really think this bot is quite cool. Again, if you're interested, feel free. Also, got my X loaded up here. I don't have my YouTube loaded up, but if you want to check out my YouTube, it is linked, I believe, on my X account. So for those of you watching on X, you can check it out there. If you're interested, feel free, subscribe, do all that type of stuff. Really appreciate everything. And then, as I mentioned a little bit earlier on in the stream, if you're wanting to have a little bit more one-on-one interaction, I guess, feel free to just check that out. Check out my Discord. Again, link in the description below if you're on YouTube, and if you're on X, I believe it's in the pinned post. So feel free. Let me actually check on X really quick and see, but I think it's so my YouTube's actually linked under my channel, as well as my Patreon is in the pinned post. If you're interested, again, keep in mind, Patreon is free. It's just there to hopefully keep bots out. So we'll see. Alrighty. Well, that's all I got for today, guys. Really appreciate all of your guys' time. I know there's plenty of things to be doing out there. Appreciate you watching and hanging out. And overall, hopefully you learned something about crypto. And, like I said, subscribe, all that type of good stuff. So anyway, I'm going to end it off here, and we will see you guys next Thursday. Thanks, everybody.